Islamic,
Middle Eastern
countries. So we are all this together. It's the melting pot we were just talking about just before our episode, before being on air. But returning back to Africa, Professor Ghazawy, and returning back to what you've kindly mentioned just a few minutes ago about our foreign relations, or our return back to Africa, our way to strengthen our relations with our strategic depth and its impact on the so-called Renaissance step. How do you see Egypt's way of strengthening its ties with Nile Basin countries to strengthen our stance toward this file, especially after the very much delayed and postponed talks and those disputes, I should say, with Ethiopia about the two bureaus who should have been working for such a long time now about studying the file itself from the technical, scientific, political, economic impact on the downstream states of Egypt and Sudan?
Well, it is a fact that what happened inside Egypt is very much affecting what can Egypt do in terms of resuming its good relations not only with Nile Basin countries but with Africa as a whole. The reason for that is that in a country like Egypt today, while we are undergoing a process of transition, we have gone through 2 consecutive revolutions and a lot of difficulties we have faced and still facing so far. On top of them is terrorism and a lot of economic complications, not new, I have to say. They've been accumulating for tens of years without any decisive solutions to these problems at that time. All of that have amalgamated all together to create such tough situation which Egypt going through now.
Dream for a while?
Well,
let's dream, or let's just try to imagine. Today there was a very crucial meeting between the head of a state, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and the Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry and the Minister of Water Resources and Irrigation, Dr. Hussein al-Mughazi, to tackle this issue and to prepare for the coming tripartite summit, which is going to gather the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and of Irrigation from the 3 countries, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. The list, the talks, in points. What should be the first to tackle?
Well, the first one is which Egypt has already done, is to admit that Ethiopia has a right to build whatever dams they want, to invest in their own development process, but they have to take care of the countries like Egypt and Sudan not to be affected or impacted in the negative way by what they do. So first of all, they have right to build dams.
To develop.
Yeah. We cannot stop that. The idea, and probably not a lot of people know that the Renaissance Dam is not a new idea. It's not 10 years.
And it's not the only dam. It's one of 7.
It's one of 7.
Yeah.
The first mention of was in 1962, and it was presented technically in a very detailed study by the American Agricultural Bureau at that time. But because of the relation between Nasser at that time and the Ethiopian leaders, this dam has been delayed. And later with Sadat, there was some diplomatic and non-diplomatic ways of delaying it. And when Mubarak came, the same issue kept. So Ethiopia definitely has interest in building this dam.
Why I'm saying that what happens in Egypt affect our process externally or internationally and in African wise, because while we were deeply involved in our problems internally during the revolution,
they seized this opportunity.
They found it a very wide space for them to build it the way not only they planned it from the beginning, but even they magnified it. They doubled it several times. Of course, if we started late, we sobered late, because from the beginning we had some different options. The easiest one was to collaborate with them, to build the dam with them, to make sure that the volume of the water, technically the structure of the dam, the future effect or impact of the dam will not be affecting Egypt or Sudan. And of course, Ethiopia would have welcomed intervention, but at that time we were not there. I mean, we were not very much involved internally in our problems, so we didn't do that. Today we talk about a fact. The dam already,
nearly 50%.
Nearly 50% is built, and still Egypt negotiating, and hopefully there is a solution, but still resilient. I think as you said,
one final question, sir, regarding this.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for the interruption, but I'd like to focus on the situation before the intervention of our top diplomat, Sameh Shukri, and before. Because I don't know why, or even experts were saying so, that when the foreign ministers were involved into the talks became, I'm not going to say more serious, but more effective, let me say so. Do you agree?
I'm not sure that I can agree fully with that. It's still, because let me tell you, it's even President Sisi intervened, and there is an agreement of principles that have been signed between the three countries, Sudan, Ethiopia, and Egypt. And they mentioned the basic of what has to be done in terms of building the dam. Of course, the intervention of diplomacy is crucially important because there is no other solutions. But the idea is, while the dam is being built today, still the possibility of Egypt being part of the technical process of building and technical process of administration is not there. So I hope that they can do this as soon as possible instead of waiting and leaving the dam being built day after day. And we have to be part of it because it's a fact. I'm not sure whether these technical complications that have been thrown in the process of negotiation time after time, how much time this will take until we agree technically. It doesn't seem that it's really fruitful at the end. What we have to do, it's not only diplomacy, it's diplomacy, and also the popular diplomacy is important. And today I know that
the soft power, and the Orthodox Church.
Of course,
yes.
The Orthodox Church.
Yeah.
I have to say that all possible powers have to intervene today, and of course, we have to admit that even doing that, we were late in handling it, but we can never be late to do whatever we can to diminish the harmful outcomes to the minimal possible level, which can be done, of course.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Far from Africa, let's go elsewhere. As you have mentioned, the Asian part of the world. Moving to the tigers, moving to China, to Japan, to South Korea. Last but not least of the visits of Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri, it was to this part of the world, to South Korea and to Japan, in preparing for a visit of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to this part of the world, and also to, we are going to have in few weeks to come a visit by the Chinese President to Egypt. So, another side of the coin, the Egyptian-Asian relations. If you just can give me a briefing on it, or to your evaluation of it.
At this moment, the Egyptian relationship after Fattah al-Sisi ascending and being on the top of the head of Egypt, it's magnificent. It's much better, 1,000 times. Because before it was a chaos and a disaster. Today you will find that Japan itself are keen to invest in high tech with Egypt. Korea is doing one of the big two factories, and it's on the Suez Canal project. China have 5 million square meters there for logistics and other factories there. So these African countries, Asian countries, are involving themselves in an African country like Egypt. And lots of people saying Egypt is unsafe. Do you think these people are not studying very well what is the situation in Egypt? No, they have studied, and the Prophet comes out of this in that spot, in that area, with this mentality ruling Egypt today. No, they know it very well. It is more successful than having an investment in their country or out in the States. This is
To add to what you're saying, sir, whenever we are seeking investors to come and we are paving the way for them to be here in a safe and secure atmosphere or environment, unfortunately, the investment bill or the investment law is not at the moment effective, to be accurate. We had this investment law just days or maybe one day before the 13th of March, before the economic forum which was held in Sharm el-Sheikh from the 13th to the 15th of March 2015. Let's talk on the ground. Are we ready to receive those investors, sir? On the ground, don't we have bureaucratic issues, even to the extent that in one of the recent speeches of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, he said it himself that he is going to sign any contract if the executives are not willing to sign those contracts for any kind of fears or...
Well, I asked Mr. Fattah al-Sisi to use two terminology. One of them is fire, and the second one is hire. Okay? So I know 3 of them should go out immediately. They're not capable.
From the economic group?
Whatever.
Okay.
So
I said it. Okay.
So they are not qualified according to the vision and the energy and the flow of the people of Egypt, as well as...
Only 3? Sorry, you're very kind. Only 3?
Optimistic, let us say.
No, I'm talking about something which is like...
Okay, I am here representing the state television.
Okay.
And I'm telling you something.
Yes, ma'am.
Whoever is not fit for this stage Egypt is in, which is one of the most important and critical periods of its modern history, just as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said in one of his very first speeches when he became the head of a state. Go home.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back to our...
Yes, because I'd like here only to just say in points. What should we do to attract?
This is what I'm going to say.
Okay, great.
One thing. Number one, somebody, when you want investors, you need what you call the 4 corners for him. Where is the east, where is west, where is south, where is north. So when he invests over there, he knows what he's going to do. That's number one. It's not clear right now until with this law.
Okay.
That's number one. Number one, when you want to do the law, you can take the maximum doing this. It's a month. You have the parliament, submit it to them, let them agree or disagree or add or minus, and have to come out within a month. It's and to 6 months.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, Turkey, when they started, I'm sorry to say Turkey because I'm not, I love the Turkish people, but I hate the government.
We all do.
Yes, but I hate this government. Yeah, this government, I dislike them.
Let's say administration.
Administration. I dislike them from the top to the bottom. They started with a very